It is time for the new edition of Horus Heresy. That's right, the edition that nobody asked for and everyone's afraid of, but it might actually be secretly awesome.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot of new models. We've got a new armor mark for your troops, but more importantly, we have the Saturnine Terminators, our favorite Fifth Element baddies. You remember those little guys in their suit?
Are you German?
So in this video, we're going to take a look at Saturnine, have a look at the box, talk a little bit about the new edition, what we've seen in there, and, you know, whether or not we should be terrified. Is this the end of Horus Heresy or just a new beginning? And also paint up a couple of Saturnine Terminators and see how they look as an Alpha Legionnaire and what is it you collect?
Or,
what are those
Ultramarines.
Blueberries?
Yeah, the cool Ultramarines, 30k Ultramarines. 30k
Ultramarines are kind of cool. So the first thing we're going to do is dive into the box and have a little look-see at what's inside from the personal perspective that can kind of talk about the realities of that kit.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Games Workshop kits have been pretty hit or miss in how the little soldiers go together. Some are beautiful, not an issue, you don't even hear about it. Others, you hear nightmare stories, and I think that's really important to have a look at for ourselves and also for anyone who's watching at home.
So I'm gonna give some positives here to start with. I love the new weapon sprue. You get 2 of these, they're covered in options, including combi disintegrators. And these I'm actually gonna be using in 40k to make my Alpha Legion cooler. But there's heaps of awesome stuff here. I like the designs of the disintegrators. I think they're quite cool, quite neat, but I will measure that with a slight disappointment.
I know what it is. I know what it is.
We get the same accessory sprue that we got with the Mark III, the Mark VI, and look, it's fine, but we have the same bayonets, the same power fist, the same power claw, the same bolt pistols in holsters. And look, it would have been cool to get another one. I understand why they didn't, but seeing this same little kit, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, if you're gonna relaunch the edition, just a little bit more.
A little bit more
would
would
be cool.
be nice.
Upon taking out the Saturnine Terminator sprues, each half sprue is sort of designated into a complete Terminator on its own, and then all the weapons, the arms for them, are its own sprue.
Makes sense of the fact that Games Workshop have said, I think more guns are coming, so you're gonna be able to change the gun. It just makes sense.
There are a lot of bits though. The shoulder pad is like 7 pieces or something. Fair enough. The shoulder pad is like as big as a freaking orc.
I think these models are definitely going to be the Marmite Marines. I heard that spoken recently, which is a really good term for it. Like you either love them or you hate them. For me, I think when they have 2 guns, 1 on each arm, they seem to look a little bit like a Walmart toy. Whereas when they have a fist, it just, I don't know, there's something about it that feels a bit more like retro Warhammer, and I think that makes them look a lot better.
You walk out with, you know, your hands tied behind your back as it were, and you know, you feel a little bit silly on the battlefield. So I agree, the fists are cooler.
There's a couple more things in this box. We have the Mark II Marines, which honestly, this is the biggest glow up of a kit ever. I have always not liked Mark II. I've always thought it looked like a lower grade, weird, just bad version of the Mark III Marines, but they've done a lot to make it look a little bit unique from Mark III armor. I like the changes to the ridges on the back of the legs, and I like the helmet redesigns. I'm pretty damn happy with this, but I still wouldn't use them in an Alpha Legion army for me personally. But that's not all. There's also a quad accelerator cannon thing. It's cool enough. It looks cool, it's great. It's not the thing that's gonna sell the box to me. There's also the Saturnine Dreadnought, which, what did you think of that, Murray?
I mean, it just looks like a bigger Saturnine Terminator, like in all aspects, really. It's got the same guns, the same shoulders. It's just a bit bigger.
For me, it's the pinnacle of everything a Space Marine Walker could have, and I have to say, controversially, it's possibly my favorite of all of the Dreadnoughts. If you're gonna have a super mega awesome Space Marine Walker that kind of steps into Imperial Knight territory or Cybernetica territory, this is it. It's really well designed and I like it a lot.
It does feel like an old school, just mech. Something from the 80s and 90s, just absolutely hardcore. I'm still on Team Ironclad. I think that's still the coolest design in Dreadnought, but I respect this one. And then of course, we have 2 characters. We have old boy Mace with the little servo skull. He's pretty cool. But then we have an absolute beast in Saturnine Terminator armor himself. And that might be one of my favorite models that Horus Heresy has released.
What?
It is very cool. It is silly, but it's cool.
All of the latest Horus Heresy Praetor characters, they're just like, you know what would be the best thing to carry into battle? Grandma's T-plate collection. They hang all these discs from their chests. I don't get it. I don't mesh with it. And overall, I think the characters are just, 1, overscaled. I don't understand why they're so big compared to the other models. And 2, covered in crap. And it's not cool crap to me. It literally looks like they're walking around with a tea set attached to them. But this Praetor has lots of options. And the version without all that crap on it looks awesome.
Yeah, nah, that's fair. I respect that. Let's build something.
That's true, we should build something.
So the instructions start us with building the legs, which is usually where you'd start with a Space Marine. Then it sort of skips to the body, then comes back and asks you to assemble the feet, but then glue the legs into the body, then the feet onto the legs, and then assemble the base. And I don't know about you, but in all my history of building Space Marines, legs with feet on the base, you know exactly how it's going to stand. I have no idea how to balance these guys.
I have to be really careful being critical here because I feel like that person that asks for the thing gets the thing and then complains about getting the thing. One of my biggest annoyances with modern Warhammer and modern Games Workshop is the models are too monopose, and their pro to this kit is it's pretty customizable. The con is, in reality, it's also really hard to build. The feet and getting the positioning right on the feet means that to actually build it, you feel more limited than you should. Like there's notches in the knee that allow you to pose the legs, but then there's ball joints on the hips and you're like, how do I pose this that looks even remotely human?
The torso though, or rather I should say, the upper chest attaches to the lower chest, the abdomen, in a very odd way. It doesn't fit together as nicely as the rest of the kit.
There's one part of the body that you would want to be able to have a range of motion on, and that's the torso, and it's the most logical thing in the whole kit to be like a smooth joint that you can just pick the angle of the upper body, and it is the only part of the kit that is completely immobile. So you have like ball joints everywhere, even the way the arms attach, the elbows attach, the shoulders, the hips. And yet the torso, the one thing that can really narratively sell the direction of the model, left, right, what's it doing, who's it shooting, is locked dead forward based off the pelvis, which I really didn't like.
That being said, the arms worked really well. Like I didn't have any issues with those. They went together really nicely.
And the shoulder pads, the way they're designed, as much as you mentioned so many parts earlier, for once, it was a shoulder pad design in Horus Heresy that glues together with no mold lines or seams, unlike the awful Mark VI pauldrons. Because of that spinal ridge down the center, there's like no mold lines on it. It looks good when it's done.
Except for mold lines on that spinal piece.
Yeah, but let's not.
No, we're being positive. We'll gloss over that one.
Let's forgive me.
Anyway, we have assembled our miniatures now. You have gone for the disintegrator cannon and fist, and I've gone for the disintegrator cannon and the plasma bombard, because I really wanted to see how they went together.
Nothing says Alpha Legion like extremely high-tech esoteric weaponry.
I have a big gluey gun. My Ultramarine army that I have at home in various stages of non-completeness is very basic. I really wanted to see how easily I could paint an effective and striking army as quickly as possible. So for this guy, I'm starting with black and then airbrushing blue. For the boys in blue, this gets about 90% of the base coating done just like that. Then I can start going in and deciding what parts I want to be metal and brass. I think brass looks really nice on 30k Ultramarines, and the rest of the black, I'm just gonna fill in later with black contrast. I am going to start highlighting it using a very zenithal style, marking out all the ridges and curved areas, of which there's actually quite a lot in this model, and I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of fun to paint. I like this model. And then once I'm happy with the final highlights, I'm going to start moving in on the brass. And for the placement of the brass, I'm basically gonna copy where all the gold is gonna go on the cover art, on the, you know, the actual box that we're provided with, and it plans to fill in the inner pauldrons using a sort of marble color to make them really stand out with a nice white pop. Then it's simply a matter of shading and highlighting all of the metal parts, because I am doing this entirely non-metallic metal because it's a really good challenge, and that's what I tell myself, but it does look really good and I have a lot more control and I enjoy doing that. So there's nothing to do but to go over all of the detail on this extremely intricate model. I cannot stress how much detail is on this model. Just so many gubbins.
It's so chill to paint. I gotta say, like, sorry to interrupt, Murray, but as someone who's been painting 40k Chaos Space Marines, I was like, oh man, there's no trim. There's like 4 textures on this model. It's like metal, trim, plate armor, and more plate armor.
True. If you're a fan of dry brushing, you're gonna have a good time. Yeah. And I can start painting in the pauldrons here, adding tones of light brown and then followed up with a nice ivory, so I get that really nice pearlescent marble look. And then I'm gonna start on the Plasma Bombard. I want a nice glowing color, and since Ultramarines are blue, I'm not gonna use blue. I'm gonna go for a really nice vivid orange. So I'm gonna start by dry brushing really heavily, a nice red. That's gonna give me my glow effect. I'm gonna spill this everywhere. This is what's gonna give that sort of overspill of color and light. Then to boost things even further, I'll go and follow in into the deepest recesses in the corners here with a yellow. And then to finish things off, it's time to paint the base, going for a really nice marbled look of Calf. This isn't how I'm basing my own army at home. I want this to be sort of a standalone, cool centerpiece model. So I'm gonna go for the marbled look, adding in all sorts of oranges and ochres. And there we have my model. It is done. And I am really impressed and happy with this. It's still a quirky, funny looking, toilet bowl looking guy, but he's my toilet bowl looking guy. And now let's go see how Dave is gonna fare with his nefarious, chaotic bro.
Well, you've all seen me paint Alpha Legion before, and if you haven't or you're new to the channel, I have painted this army multiple times, so I'm going to use my precious painting B-roll so I can rant about this edition of Horus Heresy. I was a big fan of the Horus Heresy rule set for 2.0, and honestly, I was always saying this game is the one game that just needs an FAQ more than any other Games Workshop property. I was like, give us just a comprehensive points pass and an FAQ pass, tweak a few rules, and we have a near perfect game system. But instead we've gotten a big new addition, and there were some things a lot of people were frightened for. One of them, of course, is that vehicles have been by and large pretty underpowered, and dreadnoughts feel a little bit powerful on the tabletop in the previous edition. The addition of weapon damage in this edition has me concerned that things will be blowing up left, right, and center, which kind of makes the game feel a bit more like 40k and starts to rob it of all the things I like about Heresy. They're insisting vehicles are going to be tougher, but how can that be so with things like a melter gun having 6 damage, which is enough to pop a Predator in a single shot if you're within melter range? Well, I was thankful to see that the Armor Bane rule is not what it once was. In fact, Armor Bane is now simply glancing hits are penetrating hits. That means melter guns against Armor 14 vehicles are going to need 6s to do that deadly 6 damage, so fret not. I don't think Predators will be popping on average rolls left, right, and center, and I'm really glad to see that change. It makes me a little bit optimistic that the rest of the edition, vehicles might have a leg to stand on. And that damage does mean that dreadnoughts will finally quake in terror. Melter guns will be melting dreadnoughts, which is just gonna make me happy. I can't wait to see Contemptors blowing up left, right, and center across battlefields.
They were definitely the mini boss of last edition, I feel.
Yeah, it just kind of warped the game around needing to build big swathes of big las cannon dudes, and I don't know, I wasn't a big fan. Next up is a gripe. We balance things out. Unfortunately, with these new additions, they have not changed the absolutely awful formatting of their rulebooks. And what I mean by that is the special rules are all partitioned into different books. We only have the core rulebook in the box on hand, and I can already tell you that this partitioning is taking place because weapon rules on models in this box are just not in the rules.
For the edition that is introducing disintegrator cannons to us, there's no disintegrate rule in this book.
Oh yes, that was the one. So it's really annoying that they've sort of said these are the universal rules, and yet 90% of players play Space Marines. So of course, universal rules like their primary weapons that are in this core box are gonna be locked into the Space Marine books. It just makes it annoying from a rules reference point of view. I don't know, are they trying to make you buy more books? There should just be one universal special rules section so you can reference one book. Like I get you're gonna reference 2 books, but I'd much prefer to have my stat profiles for my army in one book that I'm flopping between. And then the other book is like the core rules, universal special rules, the stuff I'm looking up in the game. So they haven't changed that, and that's really annoying.
I will say that I am looking forward to seeing how the effects with the new characteristics of both profiles and weapon stats are gonna work. I like that they're going for more granular as opposed to the more simplistic that 40k has gone down.
Very true, but if it's anything like leadership, it does run the risk of being an underutilized mechanic where the granular differences don't really change much because everyone plays Space Marines, and Space Marines are just like the same number across the board. So what was the point, if you know what I mean? But, I'm not gonna be too judgmental on that. We haven't seen the levers, which is where the actual data sheets for the units are. They might be utilized really effectively. I guess I should say something about the paint job. I thought that the colors went really well on this. And having painted this Alpha Legion scheme in 40k so much, I actually love the lack of trim. It's so much easier to just get the good effects with dry brushing. And I think Saturnine looked pretty cool. As usual, my guy homages a little bit the purple heritage of the Alpha Legion from the book Legion. I think it's just their original paint scheme was indigo. And I want to continue to keep that a little bit in my army. So it's kind of somewhere between the official paint scheme and that old paint scheme. So that's the vibe. I think it looks really cool. You tell us, because we're about to show some reveals. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wow.
Whoa! Thank you, patrons, for supporting us while we make these videos. Your support is super good.
Yeah, it is.
I love you.
We have our own special patron Discord. If you'd like to join that, you can chat with us and join in our monthly mini review, which we have in fact just done, and it was a great blast.
Thank you for reminding me to publish that. You're all very beautiful.
Thank you.
Not you, the patrons.
Oh. Okay. What do we think of Saturnine Terminators?
I wouldn't buy this box because I don't need 40 Mark II models. In fact, I want like the Saturnine Dreadnought, the Captain, and 3 Saturnine Terminators out of that box.
You know what? I think I would want a lot of these miniatures once they release the Breacher pack.
Oh yeah,
I want Breachers.
Yeah, that's gonna be sick. This is cool. It's cool. They're cool models. Horus Heresy. Look, I'm optimistic about this edition. I think they could have done a lot worse. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of care that it still feels like Horus Heresy. It's not becoming 40K light. So, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I'm remaining optimistic. The new models are cool. Plastic foul blades. The one thing you can do, Games Workshop, to make me fall in love, aside from Dark Mechanicus, is Dark Mechanicum. Sorry, is give us Sakaran Omegas, but do their plasma guns like Legions Imperialis, because it looks way cooler. Do it.
Well, I think the Saturnine Terminators, they've grown on me a little bit.
Good. I'm glad we're turning you on to weird, derpy bomber man. I don't know.
Yeah, the problem is I still like Cataphracti more.
Make us the Terminators in proper scale. They're so short. They're so tiny. They're shorter than a Space Marine. Tartarus Terminators.
They're all short kings.
Oh my God, they're awful. Please update them. And Mark 5. Mark 5, please. I'm a Chaos player. Give me Mark 5 Heresy pattern armor. That's it. Get out of here. Go on, scram.
But thanks for sending this, G-Dubs.
Yeah, thanks G-Dubs. Love it. Love you.
Peace.